All right, everybody, welcome to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM. We're so excited because we're live at Circuit of the Americas. This is Jon Massengale, joined by Bob, Varsha, and Jonathan Green. And we just watched Lando Norris on the pole for the United States Grand Prix. What do you think, Bob?
Well, it was awesome, and we didn't get the full session because right at the end, George Russell, while trying to seize that pole away from Mercedes, went off at that always calamitous turn 19, and at full speed, it seemed, just went sideways into the barriers, did a lot of damage to the car, but he was all right, fortunately, and that sealed Lando Norris's 7th career pole.
Wow. Jonathan, I have not seen someone hit turn 19 like that, maybe ever at that speed.
No, not at that speed. It was spectacular, no question about it. And it seems that he's got a history. When he goes off spectacularly.
That's right.
But I have to say, so too was the lap of Lando Norris. He said in the previous press conference with James Hinchcliffe that he doesn't think that he could have gone any better than that.
All right, well, Chris Medland has joined us with his microphone not too far from us, only a few hundred feet. Chris, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, it's good. I'm prowling around the broadcast pen that they've got out here in COTA to see which drivers we can get a word from, and maybe some team bosses as well after that qualifying session. But I have a claim to fame now because I have something in common with George Russell. I have gone backwards through turn 19 as well, but he did it in much more spectacular fashion than me.
Yeah, I don't think you flew all the way to the wall. I'm hoping you didn't, Chris. But, man, that was spectacular. I was actually quite concerned when I saw the replay, but apparently George is just fine.
Yeah, hefty damage, though, wasn't it, on that car, that front right corner and that right-hand side. So Mercedes have an upgraded car here, like many teams do, and they'll have to hope they've got enough spares to make sure that the specification is the same that they then run in the race tomorrow. Because if not, and they need to run a different spec compared to the car that was out on track in qualifying, then that's going to be a grid penalty for Russell.
Right.
And he can't blame Antonelli this time.
That's right, which he did publicly here.
Yep.
Well, we got to set the stage a little bit, guys, because we're out at Circuit of the Americas, and it is amazing out here. I mean, the crowds already have been phenomenal. Turn 1, looking up the hill, is just – I mean, it is packed from the edge of the grandstands at the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. It is packed.
They were phenomenal on Thursday. There wasn't anything happening here.
Yeah.
And then yesterday was jammed, and today even more so. Who knows what tomorrow's going to look like?
And tonight they're expecting 100,000 at M&M. So
right.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's quite a weekend here in Austin. Of course, everybody knows that Georgia and Texas are going to play tonight. And I have to take my hat off once again to law enforcement here. On our way into the track this morning, unfortunately, we came upon the scene of an accident which produced a fatality to a pedestrian who was hit by a car. There was just a fleet of emergency vehicles there, and they actually closed the road, turned a lot of the crowd around to come in to COTA a different way. But, I mean, that's just an example of what the law enforcement here has to be prepared to do. Well, I spoke with some of the cops at lunch, and they said, well, these are 14-hour days because you have the racetrack weekend. You have the concerts, which in many ways is a totally different crowd. And you also have, of course, the football game downtown. So hats off.
That fatality was actually not anywhere near the circuit. It was a few miles away.
Yeah, it was.
And so I don't think it had anything to do with the Grand Prix at all. It's hard to say, but I mean, it was several miles away. But anyway, the scene here is amazing. One of the engineers took a walk. He literally walked around the entire track, and this is a guy who goes to events all over the world, and he said, man, this place does it right. He was just blown away by all of the different restaurant themes and all the live music everywhere, concerts all around you, and of course M&M coming up here in about an hour or so. So, and like you said, Bob, Georgia Texas football starting in about 15 minutes in downtown Austin. We've got, Austin is a city of about 1 million people. We've got this weekend around 450,000 are going to come through the turnstiles here, another 100,000 at the football game. So Austin just grew by 50% this weekend.
Yeah,
it is electric out here.
It's like ski country. When the snow flies, the population triples.
Jonathan, let's talk about qualifying. What other impressions besides Lando Norris? You said it. He didn't get, it's maybe not an asterisk, but maybe tainted, because I was really disappointed to not be able to see Max try to beat that pole time from Lando Norris.
Yeah, you could argue that Max kind of had to concede a pole position there because he was on good form and it would have been nip and tuck. Norris had been ahead, obviously, and had set the first lap quicker than Verstappen. In fact, he was quicker in the second and third sector. So Norris was on. But it was going to be nip and tuck, but it's great to see the two rivals up there. I'm very interested to see what Ferrari can do from third and fourth. They look great in the sprint race today, and I think they're going to be buoyed by that performance. And remember, qualifying and race trim are so different, but to have seen 19 laps of Ferrari duking it out with each other, mind you, and probably slowing each other down, actually.
Right.
But to now to see them maybe kind of thinking about it a bit more in the longer race, and strategy-wise, they start the race together. That also gives a hare and a chaser to that. And obviously, we know that it's tenterhooks for the two championship contenders. So Ferrari will be thinking there's a good chance here.
Yeah, and they had good long-distance pace during one practice on Friday morning. So, yeah, I think Ferrari has something for the field, and they all seem to be fairly calm about it, all the way up to the top, to Fred Vasseur, who said that the race holds good promise for them. And both of the drivers have been, winking from the cockpit and generally looking like, yeah, we got something.
Yeah. I tell you what, the driver of the sprint race for me was Carlos Sainz.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Best performance I've seen him in a long time.
Yep.
Max started on the pole and ran away with it and had a pretty calm race, his own race. But, man, Carlos Sainz was on it and battling, like you said, battling with his teammate. But still, to come back and take second place in the sprint race is fantastic. But, Chris, we hear your mic lighting up. What's going on out there?
So I'm just making my way further down the paddock, actually, because no movement at the moment from the driver's point of view. But I want to head to Alpine because can we have a shout-out for Pierre Gasly and the job he did today in qualifying? I don't know
Phenomenal.
where that came from.
Yeah, that was huge, wasn't it? Jonathan, what did you think about Gasly?
Well, I mean, we sat there commentating on it, and we all kind of looked in disbelief when we saw his times come through. I mean, Alpine, I asked Chris in the middle of commentary, it's like, how often have both cars been in Q3? And it's only 3 times. This season, that is.
Yeah.
Each, yep.
Yeah, he had a 132.9. Anything starting with a 132 from that car, I did not expect this weekend.
Well, the Americans have got a lot of American investors in Alpine, as we know. I don't know if any of them are here this weekend, but they'll be watching.
I'm sure they're here. I'm sure they're here.
They may be in luxury boxes over at the stadium. But.
Yeah, phenomenal from Gasly. And K-Mag, how about K-Mag into Q3 again? And only, the fourth time this year, I think I heard that he out-qualified Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Coach, we should sit him out more often.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had a great sprint race today too. They finished 7th and 8th and picked up 3 points. And I think I'm right when I say that Kevin Magnussen, after 17 races this year, because he missed one for being a naughty boy, finally passed Oliver Behrman in the driver standings. Behrman has raced twice.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, those 3 points did give Haas is they're now tied with the RB team for 6th place.
Yep.
I mean, the last time that the Haas F1 team was their best season ever was 5th place in 2018 at the end of the year. I think this would, if they were to finish 6th, which is very plausible, especially the momentum they have right now, they could easily take this 6th position. And what a turnaround.
And it's more impressive given that we've been saying all season long, where's the midfield? Who is the worst team in Formula One? Because there's been no obvious contender for that. It's been a very strange but really competitive season. And so to be 6th at this point, given that Williams are competitive, given that the only team actually who really aren't competitive are Sauber.
Yeah, and that
must be said that you say about tied for 6th. They are classified ahead because have two 6th places from Nico Hülkenberg. So if the season were to end like this, it isn't a tie; it's Haas ahead.
There you go.
You have to remember those tiebreakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking at today's qualifying results here. Piastri in 5th. And you got to be happy with that in the team head-to-head battle, right? Because looking down, scrolling, and there's Perez down in 10th.
But
right?
He's over half a second behind his teammate, and that won't be happy boy for the Aussie.
Yeah. Boy, but I tell you what, watching the laps here at COTA makes me so excited for this race tomorrow, because looking at how everyone is pushing in turn 19 and then through the S's, and how many track limit violations have we seen, and what turns? I wrote down for sure turn 19, that was the obvious one, but turn 12, turn 9, what other turns? Anybody else?
9.
Isn't that enough?
It's true.
9, 12, and 19, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the typical ones, isn't it?
And that the track limits violations was the bane of many drivers' existence. A lot of drivers lost key laps, Perez among them, for going off.
And Lando's lap that he set for pole, he had 3 tires off, because if you notice, he was almost, it was a little bit of a drift almost, because that front left tire.
It was a bit of a drift, but he kept it on track, didn't he? And that meant he's on pole. That means Zach Brown, I think, is quite happy right now. Zach, I wanted to ask you, how have your emotions kind of gone today? Because the sprint was not perfect, 3rd place, Max extended his lead a bit, and then you've hit back in qualifying.
It's going to be a tough race tomorrow. I think that was a mega lap by Lando, right on the limit. The car is obviously extremely quick. The track's very difficult. It's got some new bumps because of and some tarmac. So the feedback we're getting for the drivers is the car is just a bit inconsistent. So I think track limits will come into play tomorrow. We see quite a few. It's a long race. I think it's going to be a proper slugfest.
Yeah, do you feel like you got the car to fight Max at least? Because actually, weirdly, the Ferrari in sprint race pace looked like maybe it had the measure of everyone else.
They seemed to get stronger as the race went on. So I would say definitely both Ferraris and Max are going to be the chief competitors tomorrow. A little surprised that Mercedes, I don't know exactly what happened. I heard Lewis on the radio. Maybe there was an issue because they looked pretty awesome all weekend. Obviously, with where Lewis is starting, that'll be difficult. And even George, but I don't think you can rule them out. But I think, you're going to have kind of 5-6 cars putting up a good fight tomorrow.
Well, you got Oscar in P5, I seem to remember. You're really looking to him to really get in that mix as well around Max, because you want to take some big points, don't you?
Oh, we definitely want Oscar to get in there and play.
And just finally, you've had a bit of a roller coaster weekend in terms of off-track stuff as well. I mean, is this a sign of kind of the needle between teams and the ratcheting up of pressure in a title fight?
Well, I think there's an element, of course, of that. But then we all want to kind of make sure that we're racing fairly and by the rules. And we've got some questions around that with what the FIA's uncovered. I think they've solved the issue moving forward. There's some inconsistencies in what's been said. You can't access it while the car is fully dressed. But then why do you need to put a seal on something? And also what a lot of people don't know is in Parc Ferme, the car's not always fully dressed. So I've still got some question marks over that. I'd like to put it to bed, but I'd like to have a little bit more confidence that they've looked in the rearview mirror and are comfortable and confident that it hasn't happened.
Gloves off tomorrow, though?
For sure.
Good luck. Thank you.
We maybe need to discuss a little bit about what Zach Brown was talking about.
Yeah.
If you follow Formula One closely, you know that coming into this weekend, a team was asking the FIA to take a close look at the Red Bull for fear that they had a secret device that allowed them to modify the ride height of the car, particularly right up at the front of the floor, the so-called T-tray, and that they could manipulate that between qualifying and the race to give the car perfect circumstances in both qualifying and the race. Of course, Red Bull, who was the team considered to be messing with this device, finally came forward and said, yes, we have such a device for modifying the height of the T-tray on the car, but we don't use it, and it can't be done without a mechanic climbing into the cockpit and so on and so forth. So obviously Zach does not believe Red Bull's explanation of how the device might work.
Well, I always think of there's a little hyperbole with some of the team principals are talking.
Little.
But I was just being nice.
Okay.
But when he said that Lando's lap was on the edge, it was clearly on the edge. And that's really what I was trying to say while ago about turn 19 and multiple turns.
Sorry to cut you off, John, but I've just doorstepped Oscar Piastri, and I smiled at him. He smiled back, so I'm going to ask him a question. Oscar, top 5 for you in qualifying. Was that about where the car felt like it should be for you after, it's a step from yesterday?
Not really. I think just felt very tricky today. I think yesterday felt more comfortable, to be honest. Just a mistake myself. Today was just a struggle. So need to understand why that was the case a bit more. But yeah, the pace in the sprint when I had some clean air looked competitive. So hopefully we can channel a bit more of that tomorrow.
I was going to say, if the car's a handful, is that more of a worry for the race, or does race trim maybe help you?
I'll be able to tell you this time tomorrow. But I think hopefully it calms it down a little bit. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see.
All right. Thank you very much. What I say.
Been an up and down weekend then for Piastri, no question.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I'm going back to actually looking at my my sprint race notes, and going back and what I was looking at is the troubles that Mercedes had. I mean, look, let's face it, this qualifying was a complete disaster for Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton out in Q1, and then George Russell, hitting the wall in turn 19. That's going to be, first of all, that's going to be mechanics working overnight.
But it wasn't just out; it was nowhere.
Right.
Yes.
For Hamilton.
Yes. What happened there? I mean, that is.
It seemed like both he and the team knew it because there was no shenanigans. There was no sort of usual petulance from Hamilton shouting at the team for not getting him out at the right time or whatever else. He accepted it.
Yeah. He didn't lose a lap, did he? He didn't have a deleted lap.
No, not on this one.
No.
But he did. I thought it was after. Even afterwards, they said the lap was deleted. The time was still wouldn't have gotten him in. But I need to confirm
Correct.
that.
Sorry,
actually.
Yes, correct.
Is that true?
You're right.
Yeah,
he was originally 16th, I think, or 17th, and he's dropped to 19th, which has now become 18th with Liam Lawson's penalty. But you are correct. Sorry, Bob, I should never doubt you when you ask such a question.
Actually, that's why we have you, Chris, so you can correct the three of us.
That's the idea.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yes.
What else, Jonathan, on this?
Well, I'm just really pleased for Haas. The weekend is going well, and they've got a chance with at least one of them to score points, if not both. And they scored both scored points in the previous sprint race, and it's just turning out, like I said earlier in commentary, that, Austin's not been a happy hunting ground.
No, this could be their best weekend ever. Pretty easily, actually, I think. They've already got those 3 points. And I don't know the points totals. I'll have to look it up overnight for tomorrow. But, man, it's got to be they got to be excited at Haas. You're absolutely right. I'm just looking down here, too. So, Lando, let me just run down the qualifying again for everybody here. So, Lando Norris on pole, followed by Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Pierre Gasly 7th, Alonso 8th, Magnussen 9th, Perez down in 10th, and then Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Stroll, Lawson, Albon, Colapinto, Bottas, Hamilton, and Zhou Guanyu. And I do want to talk about the fact that Liam Lawson, he didn't set a time here, and that was big for the obvious because he's going to be starting at the back of the grid anyway. But they did try to do a little drafting, a little, help his teammate out a little bit. What do you think of that? Because they always talk about how hard that is.
Right idea, but it didn't pull off because obviously he finished 11th, did Tsunoda, so they didn't actually get it to work. But no, I think that's, that's smart usage of knowing that one of the guys is going to be at the back. I mean, it's not what Lawson wanted, but I think he proved his point in Q1 by doing a brilliant third fastest.
Yes, he came on team radio and said exactly that. He basically, you could hear the vindication in his voice, like, that's what I wanted to do.
Yep.
I set a fast lap in
And by the way, this is how careers are made and lost in Formula One. You have your chance, you got to take it, regardless of what's going on around you. And look at the look on his face afterwards. You can see he's a happy boy. It's all still just new to him. I mean, I know he's got 5 races previously under his belt, but this is the big time, and he now is a bona fide Formula One driver.
This is radio, but trust me, when Jonathan said that, he was looking at Liam Lawson, who did look very satisfied. And he's having a great weekend. We talked about that with Chris during the session here. And, Lawson has so much on his shoulders. I'm sure when they said, okay, we want you to go out there and give a tow to your teammate, I'm sure he thought, oh, great, what else?
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Speed City F1 live at Circuit of the Americas. Back after a quick break. times in as I'm at turn 10 with the sun in my eyes.
Glad our regulars made it out.
Yeah, and those guys have connected. I know.
Have they?
Yeah. I think they connected.
That's great.
Yeah, we were actually going to try to get a Speed City lunch with some of the guys on Monday, but I don't know if we can make it all happen. We'll see. But I think Andy P had to leave town early or something. But yeah, I'm still not getting everything to load here on YouTube. It's not for some reason. The internet's been great. It's just not loading very well. But yeah, you guys, y'all are experiencing what we are. It is phenomenal out here. I mean, the weather is perfect because it was 101 degrees on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, it was.
It's just been perfect for the rest of the weekend. And the sunset now is absolutely gorgeous here.
Boy, he was a lucky boy, Norris. I tell you what, as pole positions go, one wheel left on the track.
I know, that's what I was saying.
I mean, look at that. That's amazing. We're just watching the replay at the moment.
Yeah, and I noticed his DRS wasn't completely closed, so he didn't have the grip and the downforce that he expected in the corner. I think that contributed to him maybe putting 3 wheels off.
Oop, that was the 9 that Perez went off.
Yeah.
We just watched that again.
Yeah, speaking of DRS. All right, we're coming back.
I'm Liam Lawson, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to Speed City. We're live at Circuit of the Americas, hometown for us, for some of us anyway. But hey, speaking of DRS, we were talking about DRS.
Hate it.
I know how you feel about DRS during the break. But did you guys notice the Haas F1 DRS flap? Did you notice what was on it? We've seen
Toyota Gazoo.
Yeah, we've seen the Toyota sticker on the front of the car. I didn't notice the until we got out of this weekend. But what a nice little advertisement for the Toyota Gazoo Racing.
Ocon was asked in the press conference whether that was part of his discussions with IO for joining the team, and he said absolutely not. But boy, is it something that interests me now.
Yeah, I wonder when he. So in other words, he didn't know is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah, Hulkenberg knew because Hulkenberg maybe a week before the announcement was saying, "Oh, there's some big things coming at Haas," and I bet everybody was like, "Shush."
Yeah, Magnussen was in the same press conference, and he was asked, kind of in
Sorry to cut you guys off. I got one of the
Go
stars of qualifying with me right now, Pierre Gasly. Where did that come from?
Some good set of improvements, new package this weekend, some new parts, and honestly, it was the best car I've had all year. Just so much more enjoyable, in terms of input inside the car. The car just reacted very nicely to what I was trying to do, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a big surprise for me and for everyone in the team. But it's nice when the surprise is sort of positive in that way, especially with the season we're having.
Well, you were in the fight in the sprint as well. We saw a lot of racing that you were doing there. What can you do tomorrow? Is it just trying to hold on at the bottom end of that point, or can you say about where you are?
Yeah, that's gonna be the main target. We know we're 7th at the moment. Checo and Hamilton probably gonna make it back to the top 10, so it pushes back to P9, and I think that's what we will try to hold on to. So we know our race. Lately, we've been more at the back of the midfield, and now we put ourselves top of the midfield for that quali. Hopefully, we can capitalize on it tomorrow.
Just finally, how good is it to drive an F1 car flat out around this track, low fuel, new tyres at Circuit of the Americas?
Yeah, that brings a big smile on my face because I must say, in that quali, the car was just as I mentioned, the best balance I've had all year, and just pushing it to the limit, especially through these S's. Car is moving quite a bit, at 290, 280 kph is just a very unique feeling. But when you have it under control right at the limit, it's definitely one of the best feelings in the world.
It was great to watch. Well done today.
Yeah, that was awesome to see Gasly.
Yeah, and as the French might say, it was an annus horribilis so far, a horrible year so far for him. Yeah. It's not been good, and
it's been a little better lately, but still a rough season.
Yeah, but it was a great question from Chris about the Toyota hookup with his next team, Haas, which will, he's going to be feeling good about his future.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just looking at Alonso, and Dave O'Neill's here this week, and he's not with us today. I mean, right now, but he was with us earlier today. And, we've been talking about Alonso and how he hasn't seemed to have his heart in it. And Dave said, well, look, they're in the midfield. They're never going to catch Mercedes, but no one's going to catch them from behind.
No.
They're just kind of coasting along. They're looking at next year, and they're not even thinking about. They're just there's not much they can do to help or hurt themselves.
Alonso, Alonso and Newey are just playing bridge right now, just getting ready for the future.
Yeah, that's very true. Just going down here, Perez once again underperforming, and it's glaringly it glares out and be because of Piastri doing his part.
Yes.
For McLaren.
Well, and it does mean that there is a reality to Marco's words, which is I haven't counted out either Tsunoda or Lawson to cover that position. And the way both of them are driving, actually, in an RB that is, let's face it, not as anywhere competitive. Gasly's just done something extraordinary. We noticed that sort of thing. And Lawson and Tsunoda both look good today.
They did.
Man, and Lawson always has a swagger. But he has confidence this weekend. You could see it in that clip.
He looks so much mature than he did a year ago.
Yeah. I think he's got a good reason to be, don't you?
I do.
Thinking about next year?
Yeah, I really do. And I think if it is a straight fight between the pair of them, and I hate to say it because I love both those kids. I've watched them grow up literally side by side. But Tsunoda, again, told to give a place back to Piastri, who had a 5-second penalty, and he ignored that and instead ranted on the radio.
O'Neill had an interesting take on that. He was like, it's okay. He's a character. We need another character in Formula One.
Yeah.
But I think Horner disagreed.
Red Bull doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, he's been like zero part of the conversation. It's really amazing.
Well, he put out something that said he thinks he deserves that last night, and I get it. You need to fight your corner. That's Formula One.
And let's remember, it may be worth remembering that Red Bull is not primarily a racing team. They are a marketing company, and so their drivers are tools for that marketing effort. And maybe they don't think Yuki Tsunoda is as useful as a spokesman.
Is that why they never sleep?
Right. That Liam might be.
Speaking of McLaren, I want to talk about the performance of the McLaren car versus Max Verstappen, because all weekend it looked like that. Well, obviously McLaren wasn't as fast. Max found the car; it was working for Max for whatever reason. So I honestly was expecting Max to take this pole position before Russell hit the wall back there.
And I also think watching the sprint qualifying that it made me conclude that the 3 weeks that they had to work on since Singapore, that car has paid off for Milton Keynes big time. Yeah,
because after sprint qualifying, Lando Norris was, he was visibly upset and not happy with the car and saying, he basically said, the upgrades didn't work. We didn't have any upgrades.
Chris Medland said in his ramble to this weekend that this weekend could really be decisive in terms of Max holding on to that advantage and exceeding that advantage, or another great weekend for McLaren where they romp it and then they really are on the back foot, Red Bull. And at the moment, we're only halfway through, but there's no question that they bounce back with good style, and Red Bull, want to hold on to that lead. And in fact, they've increased that lead now.
Yeah, and in terms of upgrades, I mean, Max referenced the upgrades and the new part they've brought, but the only listed new part that was performance-based was the edge of the floor, but they changed the floor edge. Now, I believe there'll be other bits, maybe weight saving by the way they manufacture certain components. They don't have to submit everything if it's the same spec, but they've just built it a different way. But it shows how small a difference can be made by minor changes to a car in terms of the overall impact. And the word that Verstappen keeps using and used a lot today is the word balance. And he's happy with the balance. And that isn't necessarily saying make my car much faster in raw performance. He's saying make it easier for me to drive it faster, because I can drive it faster if it's predictable or more predictable. We heard Zach saying that actually the McLaren hasn't been predictable this weekend, and yet they're still up there. So even if tomorrow goes the way of Verstappen, if the sprint form that we've got so far actually plays out into race pace, I don't think it's all over, partly because of what Ferrari are doing and the pace we're seeing from them. At a track where Carlos Sainz said he was really surprised. He thought that they had a car that was just going to be quick at Monza, Baku and Singapore, and then they'd revert to being kind of off the pace here and a little bit of drift. The fact that they're not, he's like, wow, that surprised us, and we're going to be good for the rest of the season. Now, that's what McLaren need. I kind of likened it to doing the lottery. You kind of like gambling. You put that bit of money down, and there's a chance it all disappears in one go, but you could get a massive return. Now, this weekend looks a bit more like McLaren won't be able to just chip away race after race by beating Red Bull and having Verstappen second, but they might get a race or two where that huge swing happens, where they get a win, and Piastri's ahead of Verstappen, and so are the two Ferraris, and suddenly there's a 15-point swing in one go. So I think it's weirdly shown that there's still life in it, even if Verstappen ends up getting a win this weekend.
Yeah, well, and let's not forget Red Bull's already got 2 points ahead of McLaren because of the sprint race results. But Chris, I want to talk about. You said I see you're down there at the Haas Hospitality, waiting to see if you can get Komatsu. But is he still on crutches?
He is, yeah. One crutch, just the one. It's because he tore his calf, and that was about 2 weeks ago now. Maybe not even that long. So it's like a 6 to 8 week healing process. He's not meant to really be moving around on it, but he as a team principal, he's never going to miss this. So he's had to travel. He's flown all the way across here, having been in Tokyo for that Toyota announcement as well. So he's had to do a lot of moving and a lot of flying with this torn calf. But yeah, that's why he's on a crutch at the moment. So he's grimacing through it.
Dude, how do you
tear a calf? Yeah.
Probably rock climbing. That's his hobby.
Yeah, I know he likes to climb, but
it was, yeah. So I'm told it was actually dropping off a indoor rock climbing wall.
There you go.
Onto the kind of springy floor that you have, and when he landed to then push off, jump back off it, his calf just went. So a proper tear, and he has had a number of scans. Apparently, his most recent one was showing a few bits of repairing of fibre, but not much yet. So a long way to go, and I imagine it'll be longer than the average repair time because of the fact that he's not going to stop moving around and stop doing his job and stop flying around the world to be the team boss of Haas. So that's not really going to help, I think, speed it up so much.
Just looking at today's results and yesterday's results and everything this weekend, not a great weekend for Williams.
No, terrible.
The man himself that we were just talking about, has just walked out to me on a crutch. I feel terrible making you even move. I should have come into you.
Sure about that. Yeah, you don't look feeling terrible.
I genuinely do, but I'm not allowed in. You're in engineering. It's all.
No problem. It's fine.
But today, so far, has gone very impressively, certainly from the outside, but I imagine within the team as well. 3 points on the board and a car into Q3.
Yeah, honestly, scoring P7, P8 in the sprint is amazing. We are the fifth quickest car, and then if you look at our pace towards the end of the sprint against Perez, he wasn't quicker, right? So that was really satisfying. I think we managed it very well. So that shows that our race pace is good. And then qualifying, to be honest, we were a bit deflated, a little bit disappointed because, again, Nico should have been Q3, but he locked up twice into turn one, and it wasn't a small mistake. It's 4 tenths and 5 tenths. Then when you look at his sector 3, he's, again, one of the quickest. So potential is there. Unfortunately, on Nico's side, we didn't maximize it. So that's very, very frustrating to be out in Q2. Kevin, I think we have to give him a credit that he adapted to this new package very well. He had old package until sprint. So between sprint and quali, we updated his car because Nico's data was very positive. So Kevin said, car is definitely quicker with the new package, but still, he got to adapt to it, right? And he's done it very, very well. And then getting to Q3 was good. And then Q3 run 2, he was already 3 tenths up. But then just unlucky that we had a yellow flag from Russell, so he couldn't better his lap time. But it was good effort. And then really looking forward to tomorrow because I think we have a good race car. So
I was going to say, and I guess Kevin will have to do some more learning, though, through that race because he's not done any high field running with the new package. But do you think Nico starting, is he 12th, I want to say off the top of my head? So do you think he can make progress into the top 10?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his pace in the sprint was very strong. And then, Kevin, you say he needs to do some learning, but I think he's got enough feeling from this low fuel run that where the strengths of this new package is. So I think he'll be fine. I think I'm looking forward to both car racing on the same package tomorrow. And certainly, I think if Nico can race well, I think he can make progress to get into top 10.
And now I know there's more points on offer tomorrow, but you've moved up to 6th in the Constructors' Championship today with the result you've had. How satisfying is it to do that off the back of big Toyota announcement? You've got the branding on the shirt, and you're showing everyone that this is a team moving forward in every sense right now.
No, it's huge, absolutely huge. And also, beginning of the season, to be honest, even let's say just coming here, on the sprint weekend, we really focus on the race because sprint is only top 8 score points. So, it's very difficult to score points. So to actually have both cars in top 8, P7, P8, is a testament to everyone's effort. So, really satisfying. It's just a bit disappointing that we couldn't back it up in qualifying. But I guess, again, it's good to be a bit disappointed with P9, P12. But we definitely can go for points tomorrow, both cars.
Well, we look forward to seeing it. And will you please rest that torn calf overnight tonight?
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric.
You got to be rooting for the Haas team here in Austin.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really good.
They've got so many fans out there, haven't they? You see them at this race. You really feel it, that this is, when they joined the grid, I think we all said it, this is the American team, get behind them. And then some people questioned that a little bit in terms of, where it was based or just kind of how American as such it was. And when they struggled, it sometimes felt like fans found it a bit harder to root for them. But slowly but surely, they proved a lot of people wrong. And I've really seen that kind of fan base grow.
Yeah, no question. And having a young Grand Prix winner and a youngster starting out who's already proved what he can do in a Ferrari is exciting.
I know, Ollie Behrman coming, that's really... But Chris, just to expand on what you're saying a minute ago, it really was rough going early days for Haas. I mean, there was a lot of American momentum, and then the team up with the Russian Uralkali team, that was a backward slide. And the fact that they didn't have, they kept saying maybe we'll have American drivers, and they didn't, and it was a rough start. But right now, I think you're right. I think the momentum feels so good with them right now. And this Toyota partnership, it is all looking up for the Haas F1 team. All right, guys, we got to get a quick break in, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, let me see if I can get YouTube chat working again. It's showing blank again. I don't know why. But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to we're working with this little company. I want you guys to help them out a little bit. You might have heard of American Express.
Yes.
We're Andy P and Kevin Kelly are out there in stands, and so are about 50,000 other people with these little American Express radios around their neck, and we're helping them out, providing some content for them.
At least you didn't call it Amex.
Yes, that's true.
Well, and if you haven't got one, get one.
I know.
Yeah, really.
They're good.
Yeah, actually, they're really good. They're designed specifically for live sports because they have really good earbuds, apparently, and really loud volume to overcome any of the ambient.
Take a box to the studio and give them out on the air.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I'm sorry. I just can't get anything working with YouTube right now. So
let me see if I can do that.
Yeah, check on your side, But yeah, Dave O'Neill's been with me. Jonathan and Bob have been doing the PA in the other booth, and Dave O'Neill's been hanging out with me in this booth, and we've got a Spanish commentator in our booth, and we've got the engineers in our booth. That's so right. we're getting our money's worth out of this booth.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful Texas sunset! It is about to fall below the horizon.
Yeah, we watched it come up this morning.
Yeah.
Here we are watching it go down tonight.
Chris, what's happening? Where are you? Where are you headed now?
I have moved further down the paddock. I went down as far as Red Bull just to make sure I could see Horner. I sadly can't. I think he's still in debrief. The Red Bull one might be a bit longer. So, I'm genuinely just doing that wandering thing in case anyone pops out anywhere. I can doorstep them. But it's quieting down a lot. There's a gig and there's a football game.
Yeah.
Johnny, you see any chat going on?
No, it's just turn 10, Kevin Kelly, and from the start line.
All right, we're coming back.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Max Verstappen bringing us back. I have to say he's the man of the weekend so far. I know he's not on pole right now, but, man, he has just looked so fast, and I think he might have been pole for the Grand Prix tomorrow had he had the ability to finish that lap. But, hey, I want to go back out to you, Chris Medland, and we haven't had a chance to chat much because you've been so busy and so have I, but, give us your take on – the weekend so far and everything from, I know you've been stuck in the media center too, but just, across the board. I know that we've got this controversy about the bib and all that, but any other thoughts?
Well, I thought the guy doing the interviews after qualifying was terrible at his job. So that was a real shame.
He's got good
James Hinchcliffe, how's it going? Weekend?
was doing better until a minute ago when I heard you say that. But no, yeah, it's been a great weekend. I mean, Austin, this town just gets behind this race so much, and the track is incredible. The racing we saw in the sprint today, I'm genuinely so jacked up about tomorrow's race, more than I've been for a Grand Prix in a long time.
Well, I'm just turning the tables on you because you had to ask the questions earlier, but I was just asked about the way this weekend's gone, the controversies we've had. We've had a bit of everything, haven't we? We've had the off-track intrigue, the drama, the finger-pointing, and then on-track, the guys going at it as well.
Yeah, I mean, the great action on track, so tight margins, big accident, unfortunately. Hopefully, obviously, George is okay, but it has been a little bit of everything. It's typical Formula One 2024, isn't it? It's drama on track and off, but providing the right entertainment for the fans. Most importantly, as long as we have a good race tomorrow, I think we can forget the rest of the stuff and just focus on what we're here to see, which is a good motor race.
It is indeed. Or it's M&M, or it's the Longhorns. Are you running to one of those right now?
No, I'm running to a different event. I wish I was running to M&M right now. Not running the football game. Don't get college sports. And I missed Sting last night. I don't know. I'm not doing it right. I'm working too hard this weekend, I think.
Well, you carry on working, and I'll do the same. I'll walk the other way. See you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's great, Chris. Man, Chris and I did a show, a wheel-to-wheel show with James, and man, he is a fantastic. He is great on the mic, and he was so well prepared. He is great.
Yeah, he really is a top quality addition in that sense to, I guess, the F1 world. He does a lot of the F1 TV coverage, and he really gets it. He explains things really well. Very engaging to listen to. But also, I think, because he's still driving, he's still racing, so he brings that perspective too, even if it is not in single-seaters right now. So that's been really good from his point of view. But to kind of take it all the way back then to those questions, John, that you had asked, I kind of agree with him. It's been like a microcosm of the season, all in one weekend, almost all in one day so far, because we've had that off-track stuff and the finger-pointing and, you know, is the Red Bull car legal or has it always been legal, more to the point? And it was McLaren putting that pressure on because they're chasing and they're getting closer. But then, like we've seen, you can't guarantee anything and you can't get comfortable that you know the competitive order and it spins around again and suddenly Red Bull are back on top, which I know has upset McLaren, especially when they've been pointing the finger at Red Bull and the car setups that they can use. So it's properly kind of bubbled away off track. And then it felt like on it, actually, that was what was lacking. Because even with the sprint and how exciting that was, and I loved that racing, just that Verstappen win and Lando dropping to third at the end of that was, you know, I guess, damaging to the title hopes. If you want to see a title decider or at least go to the wire. So for this outcome then in qualifying as well, I just think, as Hinch said, it's set it up beautifully for tomorrow because it's going to be so intense on that first lap. That opening lap, well, I mean, we will talk it up tomorrow in the pre-race show, but yeah, Hamilton versus Verstappen, going back to 2021, Norris versus Verstappen, they know whoever leads at the end of that first lap, these cars are closely matched. It's going to be crucial. So there'll be no inch given from either of them. And I don't think we're going to see a similar Verstappen to some of the other races in the past, but he is still a guy who can afford to be a bit more aggressive. And he's earned that right by having the lead he's got because he knows it will hurt Norris more if both of them go 50-50 and collide. So it means that Norris has to leave that little bit more margin. And that again, is a fascinating aspect of the way that tomorrow is set up.
It's a very good point, and you're absolutely right. And I do believe that this impetus, the fact that we've had a 3-week gap, basically does set up this triple header back-to-back, effectively, with 1 week break in between, because it's going to be so intense. I mean, look where you're going. Just in this first triple header, Austin couldn't be more different than Mexico City, and then Interlagos. I mean, and then you go to the Far East, and again, it all throws out the window. So there's going to be a lot to contend with in this next 5 rounds after this.
You go to the Far East by way of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm thinking about the qualifying order, with the exception of Lewis Hamilton, who is well out of position. I think it's an honest look at who's got what going into this race. You know, I think the right people are up top, particularly from the big 4 teams. And as a result, I think we're going to see the kind of race that's going to demand patience from these drivers. It's hard to pass here. There's only 2 DRS zones, one on the long back straight and one here on the start-finish straight. And it hasn't produced an awful lot of passing this weekend. So it's I think drivers are really going to have to work hard to be patient. Pirelli says they expect a 2-stop race here, which is kind of surprising to me, since the 2 tire compounds they expect to see most are the medium and hard. So, there's an opportunity there for somebody with a car that's kind to its tires to go long, try to do the race on one stop. There's a variety of options. Weather's not going to be a factor. It's going to be an interesting race, and you got to pick your spots.
Yeah, speaking of cars that are easy on their tires, who do y'all think that would be at this point? I'm just thinking,
McLaren.
Ferrari.
Well, from this weekend so far, though, I'd kind of lean towards, Ferrari and Red Bull. I think they're looking a little bit better balanced as cars. Mm-hmm. And the Ferrari looks strong in that sprint. And I think that's another point, though, for where Bob's saying about the two-stop. Don't forget, everyone started on medium tyres, and it's only a third of the race distance, and you're not on full fuel at the start of that race. And quite a few people started to struggle towards the end of it. Not everyone, and Red Bull were one that didn't, Ferrari were one that didn't, but Mercedes certainly, McLaren certainly. So a number struggled.
Chris, you're the king of strategy. How do Ferrari work together to best get the result they need?
I don't think they do. I tell you why. You watch that sprint. Look at the way they fought. They were fully on it. These two drivers, if there's an opportunity to get a win, they're both going to want to go for it. They kept it clean. That was impressive in that sense. It was great entertainment for us. But I don't think it's as easy as working together in that sense. I think they're going to be allowed to do their own races because they're both so quick. But flip that round, you've also got Oscar Piastri up there in fifth, who can maybe do that if the McLaren is quick enough in race trim. Now, the big question mark then is if the Red Bull doesn't have a race pace advantage and is under threat from both McLarens, both Ferraris, then Sergio Perez isn't there to help. And not only that, if there isn't a race pace advantage, you can't expect him to come through from 10th to help. That's kind of, it's a vicious cycle that he's already out of position. So it could be, and like I said, the start will be crucial, but in that opening stint, if you do see that Red Bull can't pull away, in fact, if Verstappen can't get away, having both Ferraris and both McLarens there could cause a real headache for Red Bull.
Yeah, true. Very true. I tell you, it's really going to be interesting tomorrow. There's no question it's going to be a great Grand Prix tomorrow.
Yep. I think we're all going to be watching the grandstands as much as we are as the racetrack, too, because these crowds have been so enormous. Can't wait for that number about how many people
they're getting what they paid for sure. They get the weather. They've got great racing. The undercard is the best we've had with Porsche and the Historics, and I think they've put on a great show. It's all good.
And I'll tell you what, you talk about get their money's worth. COTA is a bargain, really, because, you can buy 3-day tickets for, they originally were going for about $350. You do have to pay for parking, but they have shuttles. $39 shuttle will take you downtown, from downtown. And the racing that you get here, we got the glamour of Vegas and you've got the star-studded Miami, and it's all shiny and new, but, man, good old reliable COTA is delivering right now. And on site here, the food, the concerts and everything, not only in Austin, but they've brought it out here. That's one of the best things they've done. So I think this is an amazing Grand Prix. What are you giggling at, Bob?
You're so proud of your hometown. Great to see.
I can't blame you.
Texas, baby.
There you go. Growing up, 20 miles from
That's
here?
right,
When there was no sport except college football?
That's right. On a ranch about 20 miles from where we sit.
Bobby Epstein described today as freaking awesome when I spoke to him earlier.
There you go, Bobby.
That says it all.
All right, well, we're out of time, and tomorrow, don't miss it, because we're going to have our pre- and post-race show and the race right here. Everything starting at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and thanks, Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, Chris Medland, Dave O'Neill, and we will talk to you tomorrow.